Assalamu alaikum everyone. Welcome to our weekly live. Bismillah, I'm seeing people trickling in, mashallah. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullah everyone. Welcome to our live session. I am 8 minutes late, but that's because where I live in Colorado, Maghrib is right at 7:30 around this time of the year. So for that reason, I'm a little later than usual. Assalamu alaikum, Sister Nadia. Wa alaikum assalam wa rahmatullah. All right, you guys know the drill by now. I show up around this time every Monday evening, my time. I don't know exactly what time it is where you live, but I am here to take your parenting questions that you have, and we'll go from there, inshallah. So type in the questions that you have in the chat, inshallah. I'll take them one at a time, and then if I don't see any questions, I have things that I can talk about to you. Bismillah, I wanted to give you the chance first to ask your questions. And then before I see any questions, you know, they say any kind of gathering, if you start it with the remembrance of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, inshallah, we are rewarded with, it's going to be a reward for us, inshallah, on our scale of good deeds. So I'm going to start with the dua. Bismillah, alhamdulillah, wa salatu wa salam ala rasulillah wa ala alihi wa sahbihi wa man wala. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala accept this from us as ibadah, as trying to better ourselves and each other, inshallah, for His sake. All right, ladies, moms, if there are dads, I'm here for your questions. I'll give it just a few more moments, and then I'll share with you what I have here, inshallah. No questions? Subhanallah. All right, then I'm going to talk about how to teach your kids positive self-talk. So early on in my career, when I was taking parenting classes, one of the instructors that I was learning from, she shared something really powerful that it caught me really by surprise, actually. So she was saying that children who have a good sense of emotional regulation, okay, this is cool. Sister Nadia is asking about hugs. This is exactly, it kind of joins the topic that I'm going to present. So I'll keep that in mind, Sister Nadia, and then inshallah, I'll touch on your question as well. So one of the things she says that children who grow up knowing about emotions, ultimately end up being able to regulate their own emotions really, really well, inshallah. And then that's the group that actually, when they studied a large number of kids into adulthood, then they saw that kids who had very good emotional regulation, they were the ones more successful in their relationships, more successful in their careers, they were healthier, and the general quality of their life was higher. And so what defines somebody who has good emotional regulation? So that means that emotions are just part of us, of human beings. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala created us with these emotions, and it's very interesting to look at certain cultures and realize that really emotions are basically set aside and shoved down and not addressed at all. What that means, even myself growing up in Afghanistan, the culture and society was in a way where it was, you were only a good girl, you were a happy girl, or you were bad and sad, so it was just these two extremes of happy or sad and nothing in between. And so when children don't hear adults around them or society talk about emotions and how that shows up in their body and how it shows up in life, they kind of disconnect themselves from it. And what that leads to is, regardless of whether you've heard this or not, you are going to experience emotions, right? They're just part of us. Just like we were born with eyes and ears and nose and a mouth, we were born with emotions. So they come and go. And if you don't know what to do with that, this is what they studied, and they realized that kids who don't know, or adults who don't know how to deal with that, their quality of life, subhanallah, is just lower than somebody who does know. So part of parenting, really, it becomes an obligation on us to teach our children how to detect these emotions in themselves, how to deal with them, how to understand them, and then how to behave this regardless of what emotion they're feeling, right? And so how do you get your child to be more emotionally regulated? Now, in my book that's going to come out, inshallah, this is a whole chapter with countless tips on how to teach your children emotional regulation, but I'm going to touch on one thing here because it's such a broad topic. So I would say talk about emotions a lot. I wrote this in my book as well. So when my kids were little, I realized this, right? I learned about this. And so I would bring it up a lot. Like, oh, it looks like you're feeling angry. And how does that feel in your body? Oh, look, it looks like you're feeling embarrassed. What do you notice? And so slowly over time, I would just keep saying these things and keep mentioning it until one day my kids were playing and my 8-year-old came up to me and he says, he got really angry at something that his brother had done. And so he comes up to me, he's like, I feel so angry. And when I feel angry, my body feels really hot. And subhanAllah, in that moment, even though I had to deal with the kids fighting now and kind of figuring this out with them, something really made me happy because I thought, okay, finally this is working. You know, now he's not only finding out what he's feeling, but he's also able to figure out what that feels in his body. And so in order to teach our children emotional regulation, one of the things that we can do is teach them about emotions. And so if you've never done this, how are you going to even start? Well, first of all, you're going to talk about emotions more. You're going to normalize it, right? Because they're happening within you, your spouse, your children, humans around us. Everybody deals with emotions, and subhanAllah, the ones that sometimes explode, right? Or they shut themselves down and they completely isolate themselves. Those are the ones that actually don't know. They were simply never taught on how to deal with those big feelings and emotions, right? And so talk about emotions as much as you can with your children. This starts with just verbalizing it, what you feel. So just like when my kids were very, very little, I thought it was a noble thing to hide from your kids how you feel. So at the end of the evening, if I was exhausted or something made me mad, I just kept trying to smile, right? I smiled and I didn't show that I'm mad or this made me feel really tired or I am just frustrated, because I thought that was noble to just hide it. And so I would laugh, but later on when I studied research and I'm reading these research papers, and it shows that children are experts at detecting incongruence. And what incongruence means is they feel a certain energy from you. So my kids were probably feeling that I was angry or frustrated, but then they see me smile. And so to a child's brain, that's really strange. They detect that incongruence, like, what is going on here? The energy does not match what she's showing us. So we're actually doing our kids a disservice by hiding what we feel. Now, I don't mean that you're angry and now you're going to show your kids and you're going to slap them or yell or scream. That might happen because, again, you don't know how to deal with your emotions, but talk about it. Hey, I was feeling angry and I didn't deal with it in a very good way. Or before you even do anything like that, guys, I am feeling very frustrated today. Can you give me a moment? Let me drink some water. Let me take a break, just 5 minutes, because I can be such a better mom to you if I am feeling okay. And so over time, when your kids see you label your emotions, they're going to slowly start detecting and labeling their own emotions. And that's why some people who, behavior-wise, even adults who act obnoxious, I would say, like, they have very little empathy with others. They're always blaming others for problems, never looking at their own issues. The truth is they never learned to detect emotions. which starts detecting it within yourself. So they never detected it within themselves. That's why they can't detect it and label it in others. So if they say something and they are making somebody really angry with their words, they act like nothing happened, right? Because they don't know. They can't read emotions. They can't label them because they've never been used to doing that themselves. So what you can do as a parent, the best thing you can do is start labeling them in yourself. And then start asking your kids questions. So how do you feel about this? So how does that make you feel? So there's an emotion, there's a feeling, and then what does that feel like in your body? It comes with physiological signs, right? So how does that feel inside your body? So we have, in my house, for example, we have talked with our kids about feeling embarrassed comes with like red cheeks, right? Blushing, flushing red cheeks. And, sometimes feeling angry comes with very shallow breathing. Your breathing is not from your tummy, it's from your chest, very heavy, very shallow breathing. And so the more you do that, the more your kids will learn to detect that in themselves, and the more emotional regulation, inshallah, they will achieve. And that's like a lifelong skill, subhanAllah. How many adults do we know that as full-grown adults, they still have, I call them adult tantrums. They have adult tantrums. And that's because they don't know that when that big emotion floods their brain and their body, they don't know how to deal with that. They don't know what to do. They don't know how to regulate, how to calm themselves down. But and that's a whole series of steps on how to calm yourself down. There's many things you can do in the self-talk and, what steps you can take, but it starts with, first of all, detecting that emotion, inshallah. And we as parents can start teaching our children that no matter what age they are. So I'm going to go back. I see 2 questions here. Sister Nadia asked about hugging teenagers if they don't want to. This is a great question, and it kind of... it really is tied to what I'm just explaining. One of those things of teaching children emotional regulation is physical touch. This is not something, again, subhanAllah, and unfortunately, cultural-wise, we've been taught that distancing ourselves from our children as they get older is a normal thing. Somehow hugs become something shameful, kisses become wrong, especially with boys. But there is no such thing as a boy and girl. All human beings need a safe and secure attachment. And one of the biggest ways and the most important and powerful ways to do that is through physical touch, right? So if I'm sure you guys have heard of the hormone oxytocin. This is the love hormone, it's called, the affection hormone. That's why children, young babies, want to be attached to the mother or the caregiver all the time, because it creates it's incredible. It's a boost for their brain development, for their happiness, for their mental and physical well-being. And so all of a sudden, when especially boys get to a certain age, we're like, oh, that's it. Now the dads are distancing themselves from the boys, and the moms are as well. And then there might come a time where they realize they want to do it, but now the child is awkwarded because they're not used to it. So what can you do if they don't want it? It doesn't have to be a hug. Start with just normalizing touch. So as you walk by, do a little rub on the shoulder or a pat on the back, or just little touches here and there. And especially with teenagers, I would be very careful on how you do it, because it's that age when their mind is triggered very quickly. So especially if they've not been used to it, they're going to show a reaction, right? And so anything you want to start with teenagers, it's absolutely possible. So please understand this, parents, but at the same time, do it very gradual. Don't expect that all of a sudden, because you now realize that you want to give hugs, that your child is on board immediately and on the spot. That's not how it works, right? You came to your own conclusion that you want to do more hugs and more physical affection and emotional affection. That doesn't mean your child is on board. So how you approach that is very delicate. And you'd have to do that in a way where you don't push the teenager away, yet you still build and normalize those small touches first, and then inshallah take it to hugs. And it is possible. I can guarantee you, I work with parents, and if you do it the right way, inshallah, it's going to be no problem. Okay, I saw one more question. Okay, Ice Beam Laser, she says, or he says, how do you discuss this with a 3-year-old boy who's just learning to communicate? Oh, I think you're still talking about, the emotional regulation. Very simple. 3-year-olds have a lot of emotions and they show it to you. If they throw something because they're mad, you can just, instead of saying, don't throw that, you can say, oh, I see you're very angry. Is that why you threw that? This is a better way to do it. I can see you're angry. I can feel you're frustrated. Oh, I see that you don't want to share this. I see that you don't like to eat broccoli. That's why so you speak the words for them. And as much as you can, label your own emotions. So after, you just got the kids ready in the car and you're driving and you're exhausted. Just because you're exhausted doesn't mean you only have to show it in a frustrating way. Unfortunately, especially as mothers, we've been taught to hold everything in until you spill it all out in a very ineffective way, right? So before that even happens, did you know that it helps you regulate? Just by naming an emotion, your brain kind of calms down. This is for all human beings. So when you, after a morning full of chores and getting kids ready and cooking and cleaning, you got them finally in the car or ready to go somewhere, sit in the car and tell them, guys, I'm feeling really exhausted. That was a lot. You don't have to hold it all in and then hold it in all day, and then one of the kids does one thing, even if it's small, and it makes your cup spill over, and now you take it all out. In my book, I actually mentioned one of the stories when that happened to me, and I realized this wasn't their fault. This was all me holding everything in, not taking care of myself. I was just exhausted. And so the repair is just a whole different section and area of parenting, right? How repair is so important and how to do that exactly, which I talk about plenty in my book. So I hope, inshallah, when it comes out, you get your hands on it. But yeah, for a 3-year-old, 2-year-old, 4-year-old, any age actually, the best thing you can do, keep naming your emotions, keep telling them you feel a certain way and now you have to take care of yourself, keep pointing out their emotions and label it for them because they don't have language. So a child who experiences a huge flood of anger or disappointment or embarrassment, they're actually not sure what this is. And so if you see your child in a grocery store, I don't know, falling face forward or dropping something and breaking it, and he or she feels embarrassed, sit down at their level and say, hey, I can see you feel embarrassed. Or do you feel embarrassed right now? That's okay. I've had other of my kids come and say, when I stand in front of the class, I feel really embarrassed. But look, they're now understanding what that is. And now the next step is to teach them how to deal with that, right? What that feeling is, what it feels like in the body, and now what can I do? And that becomes a lifelong skill, subhanAllah. Okay, I'm going to scroll down, see if there's any other questions. Okay, so Bia Chaudhry says how to regulate emotions of a 9-year-old who starts crying first thing while confronting. So the whole idea about teaching emotional literacy, what they call, and emotional regulation eventually, is not really that we confront. I don't know, sister, if this is exactly what you mean of confronting. So that's okay if the child cries. It's probably confusion, right? But from a parent's perspective, I don't want to, it shouldn't come as a confrontation, right? Like, oh, I see you're angry now. I see you feel embarrassed. We're not confronting our kids. We're just pointing it out to them. We're really educating our kids. So just like you sit your little kid down and you teach them Alif Ba Ta or ABCs or their numbers, you are literally putting words in their mind and attaching labels to the emotions that they feel, because those can be sometimes really, really overwhelming. And so that's all you do. You educate them. So think of it as, I'm not confronting my child. I'm not pointing out mistakes or shortcomings. I am really teaching them to read their own emotions. Any other questions? I don't see any other questions, so I'm gonna give it a little bit more time. So like I said, I'm coming out inshallah this fall/winter with my book, parenting book. I haven't even narrowed down the title, but I'll keep the audience involved inshallah, picking the title for this book. But this is a tip-based book. So what you do is, I have over 96, close to 100 tips. So this is not a book that my whole idea behind this, because as a busy mom of 4 kids, from the time they were born or even before that, I've been reading hundreds of books, and that wasn't easy, subhanallah. Like the books with the chapters from the beginning to the end, may Allah guide and bless the authors. I'm not undermining their work. I have benefited so much from them, and I'm so grateful. Yet at the same time, it was hard to keep up, because to read a whole book and then come to a point where you can implement it, that was hard. So my whole idea behind the parenting book that I wanted to give you is keeping the busy mother in mind. It's that you can open the book, read a tip, and immediately implement it in your life. You don't have to go through 250 pages of a book. I want you to read a page and know exactly what to do, and read the benefits, and read a background story about me of how that affected me, and then immediately, inshallah, implement it. And subhanallah, see the results immediately, because this is how parenting works. It's a puzzle. I can't teach you parenting and all of a sudden you do XYZ and everything's perfect. That's not how it works. I always say we have a tool belt. So we read something, we learn something, we put it in our tool belt, and over time you see that in more and more difficult situations in your parenting, you have a tool that you can actually use. So inshallah, when that comes, I can't wait, inshallah. May Allah make it of extreme benefit to you, and inshallah, give me the ajr and reward for contributing to our ummah, inshallah. I do have a wait list for the book, inshallah, that you can join. And all that means is I'm going to email the list when the book is being published on Amazon KDP, inshallah, where you can order it. So when we're done, or anywhere on my page, on my Instagram, you can send me a DM, you can send me a comment and say book, and I will send you the link to join the waitlist, inshallah. That was it for today. Thank you so much for joining. Jazakallahu khairan. I hope this was of benefit to you. It sure is of benefit to me, alhamdulillah. I look forward to these sessions. We're going to make a quick dua. Subhana rabbika rabbil izzati amma yasifun. Salamun ala al-mursaleen. Walhamdulillahi rabbil alameen. Subhanaka Allahumma wa bihamdik. Ashhadu an la ilaha illa ant. Astaghfiruka wa atubu ilayk. Wa yaki, sisters. Inshallah, it was of benefit to you. See you all next week. Inshallah khair. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.